Good morning, CW Henry School. This is Miss Davis coming to you virtually on the first day of March 2021. Today is the first day of Women's History Month, and we're going to recognize women's history across the month of March each day with a daily Women's History Bite of the day. Today, on March 1st, before we start to focus on a specific person, we're going to talk a little bit about what Women's History Month is and how it came to be. So, it all began with a single day in 1908, over 100 years ago, in New York City. Thousands of women united and marched for better labor laws, conditions, and the right to vote. You can see a photograph there on the right of a group of women marching over 100 years ago. In the 1970s, an organization in California became frustrated with the lack of information about women's history in schools. This organization created a Women's History Week starting on March the 8th. And they chose March the 8th because March 8th is International Women's Day. Well, a year later, many other communities also participated in Women's History Week. It became very popular. So President Jimmy Carter declared the week of March 8th as the National Women's History Week. This happened in the year 1980. 7 years later, in 1987, it became recognized as Women's History Month. So Women's History Month has been celebrated as a month for the past 33 years. So did you know that each year there's a theme for Women's History Month? The theme for 2021 is Valiant Women of the Vote, Refusing to be Silenced. If you're not familiar with what the word valiant means, it means women, people who are courageous or someone who is determined. So you might be wondering, well, why is that the theme? Well, last year in 2020, many of the women's suffrage centennial celebrations were postponed, right? COVID-19. So this year in 2021, that theme is extended. Centennial means 100 years ago. And suffrage is the fight for the right to vote. So let's talk about a little bit of a timeline and put all these pieces together. Well, something that is incredibly important to know in our country's history is the 19th Amendment. In the year 1919, just over 100 years ago, the 19th Amendment was signed into law. It made it through by only 2 votes, and it granted women, some women, the right to vote, and would initially be sent to the states for ratification and months later signed into the law. While in 1920, it was finally signed into the law, and as I just said, some women were able to vote. Because of the 19th Amendment, women were guaranteed the right to vote. But the restrictions that would keep non-white men from voting or non-white women would now carry over, and it would stay this way for years. So while we do celebrate 1920 as the year that women were able to vote, it's important to recognize that it wasn't all women. It was specifically white women. So this was 100 years ago last year. Across this month, we are going to recognize many women, almost 25 women, who were a part of this fight, right? And a part of earning all women the right to vote. So these are people who were trailblazers, people who pushed ahead in the face of adversity, right? So I look forward across the month of March to spotlighting somebody different with you each day. As always, I encourage you to listen on YouTube, comment and subscribe, and definitely leave me a comment if you have any special requests for an incredible woman in women's history who you would like to be spotlighted one morning at CW Henry School. So that brings us to the end of our Women's History Bite of the day. I hope everybody has an incredible first day of March, and I look forward to being back with you tomorrow on March 2nd to spotlight our first woman for Women's History Month. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.